Part 11. A Day's Work. By the third ring, her eyes finally focused on the numbers on the digital readout. She growled into the phone. "It's 6 in the morning, Glutman." The fat Australian on the other end of the trid laughed nervously. "Yeah, it is early, but not too early for friends, no?" "We were never friends, Glutman. What do you want?" Beside her, Fluff's head was buried in JT's mop of hair, meticulously licking each strand. The sleeping samurai groaned and tried to swat the kitten away to no avail. "We have troubles, Cat. Nightshade and her team were grabbed by Knight Errant. You need to get them before they get into deeper trouble, yeah?" Cat sat up quickly and rubbed the sleep from her eyes. "What? Why are you telling me this?" "Cat, please. This is serious. They were caught by Knight Errant running the Aneki corporate HQ. They're going to be shipped back to the federal lockup by tomorrow. Nightshade, Equinox, and Crash Negative Zero are still your friends, Cat. They need your help badly, and you always help your friends, yes?" She looked over at JT and gently placed her palm over the gauze wrapped around his back. "Now isn't a good time to be taking on new work." "You were talking about the Crimson Crush, right? Bad news travels fast in the shadows, but I got Nguyen with your name on it. Good. Nguyen buys you time." If only it were that easy. She promised him an answer in an hour and set about getting the crew together. By 6:30, they were sipping soycaf on her couch and flipping through the Tridio for news reports on the capture. "Drek, a rush job? Now?" JT shook his head. Hegemon adopted a thoughtful look. Kitsune didn't, instead bursting. "Did everyone forget the Council Island job? Let's walk through it, shall we? 1, we have to extract Atin's musician, Mr. Parker, from the fraggin' Renraku arcology tonight. 2, then we've got to find a way to put him back. 3, we need to burst into a dogwagon facility, plant IDs, and steal an ambulance, just so we can get to Council Island and into a dragon's lair." Hegemon slid a few inches away, hoping to avoid Kitsune's wrath. She wasn't finished. "So, in the extra 15 seconds we have before dawn, you want to break into a Knight Errant facility, forgetting that we just broke out of one, and spring 3 runners." "Nightshade is a friend. That's the real point. If we don't do this, they'll wind up in Darrington, and no one deserves that. And the chance to pull in this much Nguyen for a day's work, it doesn't come around often." "Drek, Cat, we can't spend the Nguyen if we're all dead." Kitsune continued to fume. JT glanced nervously at the shaman, but mumbled, "I'm in." Cat nodded to him, lips tight. She glanced cautiously at Kitsune. Hegemon scratched his chin. "Maybe there's another option. You've made a lot of Nguyen off this Atin work so far. My cut would mean enough to walk away from running, from Seattle altogether. Cat, we could take this job and be done with it all." Kitsune threw up her arms in disgust. She flew into the kitchen and began to pace furiously. Cat watched Kitsune, musing to herself as she gazed at the irritated shaman. "Drek, when it rains it pours," she thought. "I go months without a job, and in the middle of the biggest one I've ever had I get another." Kitsune is right, but so is Hegemon, although Strowther already offered her a way out. Maybe Ank could take the job. He still had Kid Cash Derringer, Sangus, Vive, and Endearin working for him. That's more bodies than she had to throw at the problem. Fluff hopped up on the couch and settled down in her lap. She raised her hind legs, flicking her tail against Cat in the classic pet me gesture. Cat obliged, gently skirting the burnt flesh. As Cat emerged from her internal monologue, her throat was dry, and her voice cracked. "I'm not walking away from this, Hegemon. Autine is my problem." "And Nightshade?" "That's Kitsune's call now." Kitsune sighed. "Okay, Cat, but I don't know if I can go along with the rest of it anymore. Something isn't right about this job. Fox came to me again last night. I think we should walk away." "I won't. I know you won't, but the rest of us might. We deserve a chance to talk it out. I mean, fine, yes, we'll break out Nightshade. But after that, we're going to put this Autine business up for a vote." Cat didn't want to agree, but Kitsune left her no choice. With less than an hour of planning under their belt, the four Shadowrunners assembled in Snohomish, Seattle's quiet garden belt, in a part of city she'd never seen until this morning. Trees in Seattle. I thought they were restricted to Council Island and specified dog parks. Kitsune laughed. This area is big on farming. Nobody used to come out this way, but Seattle feels like it is growing every day. At first, the knight-errant facility looked brand new. Wide steps marched up towards an entrance that featured a waterfall and a marble bust of a policeman holding a child. When you looked closer, you noticed a hint of rust on the statue. "You recognize the art?" J.T. pointed at a wall that, though painted over, still bore faint traces of graffiti. "Auto Duel 76, Hegemon whistled. Auto Duel 76 was Seattle's premier tagger, part social activist, part social critic. He went after gangs and cops. Once a public complaint was filed against a particular precinct, it was only days before Auto Duel 76 added paint to the fire. He didn't just tag a location, he paint-bombed it. Every surface became his canvas." "Recent work, too. I think we just got lucky. They'll be on edge, eager to make some arrests." Cat knew where that luck came from. She smiled, reaching inside her satchel with both hands. One pulled out her Sega CTY 360, and the other shoved Fluff back down, before the kitten could make her presence known. Cat jacked in through a nearby panic button kiosk. Setting off a panic button is easy. It is also the sort of thing Shadowrunners avoid. Only, Cat wanted local security to come running. If she could, she'd pull in every knight-errant officer in a 16-mile radius. Cat glided into the sand and found the controls for the 3 farthest panic buttons. It could look like a gang raid, or an earthquake. It didn't matter to her so long as security came running. She released a honeypot program into the network to track KE's response to panic button calls, and then she popped all 3 in succession. Moments later, 8 cars flashed out of the parking lot, leaving 2 remaining. She set her deck's onboard timer to beep in 2-minute intervals, threw her hood over her head, and jogged towards the front of the precinct. The inside matched the outside. Military gray walls, lined with pictures of policemen performing community service. A handful of angry citizens milled around the front desk, waiting to ask about lost pets, tickets, or other minor infractions. The desk clerk was a 40-something uniform with cybernetic eyes that probably fed real-time images to the surveillance system. Cat kept her head low, so when he glanced at her, all he saw was her hood. She turned towards one of the wall photos, pretending to care. Her timer beeped the first 2 minutes just as an explosion tore through the back of the cop shop. Patrons were screaming, and the desk clerk looked around frantically. In the distance, she heard JT's AK-97 pumping bullets into the back door. Hegemon's drones followed up with controlled bursts of automatic gunfire. That did the job. The desk officer followed a handful of remaining officers towards the back, while everyone else ran out the front. Kat headed for the front desk, pausing only to make sure the officer didn't look back. She leaped over the counter and sat down in front of his computer. The officer was still logged into the system. She jacked in, immediately pulling up building schematics and the corresponding security camera feeds. JT and Hegemon had the back door secured, and a steady stream of bullets prevented the officers from taking back any ground. Kat slaved the digital cameras to her station and initiated a memory dump. "Where are they?" Kitsune burst through the precinct door, glancing upwards at the camera nervously. "Basement level. Down the hall to your left. One guard with a shotgun." Kitsune ran down the hall as Kat's cyberdeck beeped again. 4 minutes. Someone at the station hit a panic button. Her honeypot program detected the outgoing signal. Kat's fingers flew across her keyboard as she tried to suppress the signal. A second panic button call rang out, a third, a fourth, a fifth. "Faster, please," she muttered to no one in particular. A sixth call shot out past her defenses. She watched the program hurtle into cyberspace and swore loudly. On the basement camera, the cell guard crumpled against the wall, as if punched by an invisible hand. Kitsune came into view. She held up 3 fingers, then 5, and then 7. Kat sleazed through the security system until she found the lock codes for the corresponding cells. She sprang all 3 and then forced the system to reboot itself. Now, everything was just speed. She waited until Kitsune and the 3 runners, looking worse for wear, came sprinting up the stairs and out the front door. Not an athlete by any measure, Kat was surprised how quickly she ran to the van. JT and Hegemon were already falling back when Kat, Kitsune, and the 3 rescued shadow runners pulled the van around the corner to pick them up. Kat's cyberdeck beeped a final time, marking 6 minutes on site. It was another 3 minutes before Knight Errant showed up in force. By then, the runners were already gone.